Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor, also known as Taylor with an E, and today I am doing a Q&A video. So I put it out to you guys to ask me any and whatever questions you have for me, and I actually got a lot of responses. So I'm actually going to divide these Q&A videos into 3 different parts. So today's video is all about questions you have about teaching in Korea, and the other 2 videos I'm going to do are going to be about living in Korea and just general questions about me. So yeah, teaching Korea was a huge topic and I got so many questions on it. So I just thought, why don't we jump off this Q&A video with that? So without further ado, let's get into your questions about teaching in Korea. 100% I recommend moving here in your 30s. I actually moved to Korea when I was 27. I'm 30 now. My fiance is in his 30s and we are loving life here teaching. So I don't think you would be too old at all. I kind of actually feel like I'm able to appreciate this experience more being older. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but something in me tells me that I wouldn't have appreciated this experience as much if I came to Korea right after college. So for the first part of this question, will it be hard to get accepted through EPIK without an experience? I don't think that's something you have to worry about at all. I actually kind of think EPIK expects a lot of the people applying not to have any background in teaching. Like, sure, you do have people coming into EPIK that, have a degree in education or have experience teaching in their home countries, but I feel like a majority do not, and I am definitely one of those people. So don't worry about that when applying to EPIK. So for the second part, can I reapply? Yes, you can. They allow you to reapply to EPIK. So again, not to worry about that either. And then finally, is it difficult to be selected by EPIK? So this one is kind of hard to answer just because I don't know what really goes into selecting teachers. I'm not an official representative of EPIK. I'm just, a teacher who got accepted. So I'm not exactly sure how hard it is to get accepted by EPIK, but I can tell you these days, because of COVID, the positions are more limited just because people are choosing to stay in Korea longer than they originally planned, or schools are not hiring teachers or native teachers for the next term. So from what I hear, it has become more competitive due to the COVID situation. But other than that, what it really comes down to, if your question is really about I'm scared to apply because I don't think I'll be accepted, go for it. Because if you really think about it, if you don't apply at all, you have literally a 0% chance of getting accepted versus if you did apply. So I think the odds are better for you applying than not applying at all. So this question is also dependent on your specific school because schools start at different times. In my experience and what I've heard from my friends, school, at least for elementary, it usually starts between 8 and 9 a.m. At the school I worked at in Daegu, we started school at 8:30 a.m. So I usually woke up probably about an hour before school started, around 7:30ish. I guess sometimes if I wanted to sleep in, I would sleep into like 7:50 or 8. So that's like when I would usually wake up, and I left for school probably 10 to 15 minutes before because I lived by my school and I live by my school currently, so it doesn't take me too long to get there. All in all, it really depends on your school situation. So I'm guessing this question has to do with like the current COVID situation or what I am doing right now. So actually when COVID first broke out, we were mostly teaching online. But you also had different situations for teaching online. Some people were doing Zoom classes, For me, when I was teaching online, I actually made videos of my materials and sent the file to my co-teacher to upload. So the students were basically just watching a video of an activity I prepared or me speaking. So it wasn't like a live online interaction. But these days, I'm actually teaching in class because I teach multiple grades. Whenever that grade is in school for that day, I'm most likely teaching them in the school. So I haven't done any online classes so far this year. So again, this is another thing that is dependent on your school. So far, my schools have been super casual about what I wear. You know, I go to school in jeans, you know, even sometimes a sweatshirt. And I think actually someone suggested I do like what I wear in a week video for school. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, I can definitely do one of those videos for you guys. But yeah, I'm not too sure about what the dress code is like for maybe middle and high school. It may be a little bit more formal than what I wear for elementary. But yeah, that's my personal experience. So you actually have a couple options when your contract ends. First, technically, you don't need to leave Korea right when your contract ends. You can stay in Korea until the end of your visa date, printed on your registration card, which is usually like about a month after your contract ends. So you can technically stay in Korea for that time, but usually you do have to move out of your school apartment like the day your contract ends or the morning after your contract ends. So I know people who have left pretty much right after the last day they finished with school. So that's one option. Another option is to find some temporary housing for that, you know, extra month you have in Korea. And if you plan on getting another job or staying in Korea, you can also switch to a D10 visa, which is the looking for a job visa, which will extend your stay, I think, another 6 months. So those are a couple of options you have after your contract ends. And what do you do with all your stuff? For the essential items, people pack up all their stuff and usually ship it back to their home country. Or if you're with EPIK and there's another teacher coming in after you, you can also leave some of the more useful items for that next teacher because they're probably going to be staying in your apartment. Or, you know, you can go on these various Facebook groups and try to sell your stuff or give it away. So that's basically what people do. This first question, I'm wondering if you're asking, like, why did I choose EPIK after I graduated? Which I actually worked after I graduated for like 3 or 4 years first. Let's see. So I think I'll answer this question in this way. First, how did I choose EPIK over other teaching English abroad programs? So the first reason is I had friends who had taught here and absolutely loved it. And EPIK, from when I was reading online, it just provided the most benefits out of these other programs like teaching in Japan or teaching in Vietnam. And your pay, I heard you could save a lot teaching with EPIK versus other countries. So it was kind of an easy decision for me. Not only was this one of the best programs to teach with abroad, but also I had already wanted to come to Korea. So then the next question, how did I choose between EPIK versus working for hagwon? I'm a person who loves stability, and one of the big things that differentiates EPIK from hagwons is the stability factor. EPIK, you know you're getting your paycheck, you know you'll have a job for at least the full year. From what I was reading about hagwons, it was kind of a mixed bag, and that kind of made me nervous. So that was definitely one of the factors going into my decision to teach with EPIK versus a hagwon. And then the second reason was I was nervous about teaching Korea just because probably a lot of you watching this video, I never taught before. My background's not in education. So EPIK just seemed to provide a lot more support for first-time teachers. You know, I didn't really care about placement as much because that is the one downside for EPIK versus a hagwon is hagwon, you can choose where to live, where EPIK, they place you wherever, you know, they want to place you, but you know, that didn't really matter as much to me, so. First of all, it's kind of easy to connect your students being the foreign teacher at your school, because you're automatically like this new different person that your students are interested in. So they have a lot of questions for you. They're always coming up to you wanting to say hi, and I think it's really all about reciprocating that. And I'm a big believer in energy. Come to school with a positive vibe, a positive energy around you, and I feel like your students will give that right back to you. And I think something else that kind of goes a long way, and this kind of depends on your personality, but I like to be silly with my students. Okay, let me think of an example. So I had a fourth grader last year who would always greet me in the hallways, like going like this, like, ah! So at first I was kind of like taken aback by it, and I thought it was a little funny, but then I started going like this too. And the students loved it. I was just giving back the energy she was giving me, and you know, I think the students really appreciated that. They thought it was funny. But yeah, I think all in all, it's about your energy, the energy you bring. It's really all about that vibe. I would say 90% of things I've done or experienced at my schools I did expect, just because probably like a lot of you guys, I watched so many videos about teaching in Korea before I came here. I was on so many blogs, so many forums, and the consensus kind of was you could kind of be thrown into anything. So I was kind of expecting the unexpected. So nothing really took me by surprise. But you know, there were some things that I did that I really hadn't heard that other teachers have done before. For example, in my first school, one of my first tasks was to grade English journals, and that was kind of to make up for the 2 hours of class time that wasn't currently on my schedule. So again, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was just proofreading basic English. So, but that was something I was kind of a little surprised about, because I just hadn't heard any other teachers do that. And then kind of just like school events that kind of popped up on me, but they've always been super fun. One is the school festival. So this was basically kind of like a flea market my school put on, where students could sell their used items to other students. But the English department had our own table where kids would ask us something in English, and then they would get a little prize for it. And then my last thing, oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite things, was I actually participated in a talent show 2 of the years I taught in my last school. But a special portion of this talent show was the teachers performing. So they got me and the other teacher to perform with some of the Korean teachers, and we did like this viral flash mob dance. It was the same dance for the 2 years we did it, but there's always a part where they wanted me and the other foreign teacher to solo, so we kind of like did our little dance like in the middle of it, and it was so much fun. I think going back to the last question, that was another way that my students connected to me, because they saw me up there having fun, their teacher performing, and they were like, oh, you look so cool, you know, afterward. And they were more open to coming up to me, you know, after I performed, and they loved seeing me up there. So I kind of have 2 methods, 3 if you count just doing nothing and having your co-teacher handle it. But no, my 2 kind of go-to methods, 1, just to be silent. So if it's my turn to speak in class and lead the class and the students are talking, I'll just like stand up there and be like, and you know, of course, one student will finally catch on and they would tell all the other students, oh, be quiet, she's about to talk and stuff. So that's kind of one thing I use. And another method, which I actually learned from my co-teacher, they had these kind of hand signals and I guess voice signals they would use. So one I used a lot, especially in my last school, was eyes on me, and then the students would go eyes on you. But my favorite is just standing there in silence, because it works. No. So, and this is for 2 reasons. 1, it goes against your visa. So if you're coming here as a teacher, you're most likely on an E2 visa, which is specifically teaching English in Korea visa. So you can't do any other jobs outside of that, especially if they fall in a different field. Two, it probably goes against your contract, especially if you're teaching with EPIK. They specifically say you cannot take any outside work that makes you any money outside of your job. Yeah, this one is actually interesting because I actually think teachers coming in now to teach during COVID, like first-time teachers, have it a little bit easier than teachers already here. You know, I say that because teachers who have already been teaching here pre-COVID, it was a huge learning experience for us trying to switch from in-class teaching to online because it's something that we weren't used to. We'd never done it before, and all our materials were really for in-class learning versus online. So it was a huge change up for us. And I think for someone to come to Korea to teach for the first time during COVID, I think either way, it would be a brand new experience for you. With COVID or without COVID, you're still gonna be learning on the job, learning how to teach, learning what you'll be doing. It's a learning experience either way. So I would really just give you the same advice I would give to any new teacher coming here, whether it be during COVID or pre-COVID, post-COVID, you know, whatever. Come here with an open mind, ready to learn. You know, don't come here with too many expectations because that I feel is when teachers are let down the most. Just be ready to be adaptable for whatever situation you're thrown into, basically, because I've said it a million times, people teaching here have said it a million times. Everyone's situation is different. So as long as you come here open, flexible, ready to learn and become a better teacher, like, you're good. Honestly, I think it was just learning how to be a teacher. So the transition phase, yeah, was just learning how to teach, learning what was expected of me as a teacher, and my role in class with my co-teacher, because each co-teacher taught a little differently. So it was also adjusting to each of those teaching styles and what they wanted you to do in class. So I know there's so many TEFL courses out there, and I think what it comes down to is how much you are wanting to get out of your TEFL course, because they could range from like $50 to like over $1,000, which is actually what I paid, which I think I paid too much, to be honest. Do you want to take the course just to get your certificate in order to check that box to apply to EPIK, or do you want to actually learn something and start preparing yourself for teaching in Korea and teaching EFL? So if it's the former, then I recommend you go with one of the cheaper courses. If it's the latter, maybe you wouldn't mind spending a little bit more on your TEFL course. Your TEFL course does not matter when it comes to, oh, if I pay more, maybe I'll have a better chance of being accepted. No, it's for the EPIK, it's really about that certificate being from an accredited course. And the course, again, could be $50, it could be over $1,000, but that's all really they care about. So yeah, it really just depends on what you want to get out of it. My preferred location was Daegu when I initially applied to EPIK, and that's where I was placed. So why did I decide to teach there? So I actually had visited Seoul a few years before I made the decision to move to Korea, and when I was there, actually, it just was just like this big, overwhelming experience. So I was like, oh, maybe not here. My second choice was Busan, but I didn't have enough in-class hours to teach there because you do need 50 in-class teaching hours on your TEFL or whatever, on your certification, in order to be eligible to teach in Busan. So I didn't make that requirement. So Daegu was kind of like the next best thing. I still wanted a big city experience in Korea, and one, I had friends who had taught there and absolutely loved it. They highly recommended Daegu, so I was like, oh, this this seems cool, maybe I'll choose Daegu. And then looking more into Daegu, I really liked that it had a warmer climate than Seoul, you know, because it's more south. That was a huge draw for me. And I also just loved the location where it is in South Korea. It had super easy access to all the other major cities. So it was really easy to get pretty much anywhere else I wanted to travel to in Korea. So it ended up being a great location. I highly recommend it for those of you who are considering other locations outside of Seoul. My original plan was to teach in Korea for 2 years and then figure out what I want to do next after that 2 years is up. So yeah, fast forward to now year 5 in Korea. That plan has gone out the window. So yeah, there are a lot of different factors why I've chosen to live here so long. And I talk about a lot of them, especially as it relates to teaching, in the 10 things I love about teaching in Korea video, which I will also link to in the cards above. But just a brief overview. 1, I am so happy living here. This is probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. This is probably the most stress-free I've ever been in my life, and that has a lot to do with my job in teaching. It's so much easier and more stress-free than the job I previously had back in the US. More reasons, my students. You know, my students just make me smile. It's just like a joy to go into class every day and see my students and have such a warm welcome. I don't know, that's one of the parts about my job that I love. Then kind of going to factors outside of teaching is also because of my fiance. I did not expect to find a relationship here, and we both kind of made the joint decision that Korea is a place we don't want to leave currently. And we also have talked about if we didn't have each other, we probably would have been gone from Korea by now. And I guess the final reason is there is nothing really drawing me back to America right now. That's kind of terrible to say because 1, of course, I miss my family. I miss my family so much and it's so hard being away from them. But I think more important than that is my happiness. And I don't see myself being happy currently back in the US, especially with everything going on, and comparing the life I have now to the life I had back home, it's hard to imagine going back to that. I just like really enjoy my life here, to be honest, and that's what it comes down to. I am happy. I am happy living Korea, and if teaching here is the way I continue living in Korea, I am totally okay with that. So we have come to the end of this Q&A video. I'm so sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I had so many, especially about teaching in Korea. So if you have any further questions around the topic of teaching in Korea, leave a comment below and I will try to answer them as soon as I can to the best of my ability. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Have an amazing, wonderful day, everyone, and I will see you next time.